Hi, everybody, and welcome to what will hopefully be the first of many quick updates from the Science Party. The format of what I'd like to do with this stream is to give you a quick update of the politics of the day and to do a little bit of analysis and then to talk a little bit about the Science Party itself. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. We've got quite a few exciting events happening today. So, firstly, you might have all seen the recent excitement from Peter Dutton. Obviously, this is a very big deal with now what seems to be multiple challenges from Peter Dutton. So he's confirmed that he's working on a second challenge to the Liberal Party leadership. That is very bad news for the Liberal Party. And Malcolm Turnbull in particular. We have multiple people from the National Party who are threatening to actually quit the government and go to the crossbench. So even if Dutton wins, it could be in a situation where the government can't keep control of the parliament. And further, if it goes to an election, Dutton's seat is at risk of being lost. So very interesting times. Obviously, the Liberal Party is in complete disarray. So yeah, this is pretty bad, I'd say, for the country. I think we spend way too long thinking about who's in charge instead of getting on with the job. We've had some pretty bad economic conditions over the last few years, and no one's focusing on that. They're focusing on who's in charge. The next big news story, which I think is not just affecting Australia but the entire world, is that the Trump administration is in real trouble at the moment. So Trump's lawyer, Cohen, and his head of campaign, Paul Manafort, they've both pled guilty. So if we go across here, this is huge. This is absolutely huge. When Cohen admitted his guilt, he basically implicated Donald Trump by saying that Donald Trump told me to do it. So if I did something illegal, so did he. So this could be an enormous escalation in the investigation into Trump, which could see an impeachment, which would be absolutely enormous. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the changes to cybersecurity laws in Australia. In particular, the federal government has been looking to get rid of encryption on our personal devices. They want to spy on all of us. Now, there might be a good reason that they want to do it, but if they open the back door to all of our devices, that's a huge security threat. And that's exactly what a coalition of companies like Facebook and Google have told the federal government, that this could be a huge security risk for devices all around the world. And I think this is a big issue for national security in itself. Imagine if your entire country's personal electronic devices could be hacked by a bad third party because you had to open it up to law enforcement for whatever reason. Imagine if terrorists got hold of the back doors to everyone's devices. That would be an absolute disaster. Imagine the hundreds of people who would die because they couldn't call an ambulance. This is crazy. And I think that the tech giants are absolutely right in terms of, the impact that this could have on our country, on our security. And that's leaving aside the good old problems with having, your dick pic leaked. Before, they were worried about, the encryption being breached around this level where you'd, between the individuals, you'd break the encryption. That was what the government was proposing to do originally, which would have been absolutely insane. But now they're also proposing to just get direct access to your device around here. So, it's basically the same thing. You're going to have your private information revealed to the government and potentially anyone else who works out how to utilize that backdooring system. The final thing that I'd like to talk about is something that is very interesting to a lot of people, including myself and a lot of my friends. The prices of housing. Now, we've seen a little bit of a pullback in the price of housing over the last few months, but we've also seen a pullback in the value of the Australian dollar relative to the US dollar, and by extension, the Chinese yuan, because the Chinese yuan is roughly pegged to the American dollar. The Chinese government buys and sells lots of American bonds based on, trying to manipulate their currency to keep it flat with no variation relative to the American dollar. And you can hear lots of people talking about them manipulating currency. If you look at the price of housing and then you multiply it by the price of the Chinese yuan relative to the Australian dollar, let me just zoom that in for you a little bit. We can see that Chinese investors have actually lost around about 9.6% in the last 12 months or so. And that's actually huge. Sorry, this is based on Sydney housing prices. And the same goes for, countrywide. It's around about 8.5%. This is a huge drop in the value of housing for these investors. So when they go to look at the housing returns for Australian property, they're going to see not massive returns and think, hey, I'm going to put more money back in. They're going to see a 10% drop for all of their family and friends. So this could affect the investment pressure for Chinese investment. I think that this is not necessarily a bad thing. If we've got falling housing prices, that means that people can afford houses. But at the same time, we're really focused on the federal government leadership challenge, and we're not worried about the Australian economy. And what this points to is a potential drying up in the available capital for Australian banks and Australian investors, possibly a pullback in the wealth effect, meaning people will feel like they're not as rich, they'll spend less money, and that's a bit of an issue in my opinion. I think that, we could end up facing our own global financial crisis coming up. And James Coffey, a former candidate for the Science Party, pointed out a couple of very interesting graphs from macro business. Firstly, you've got outstanding stock of private sector credit, so that's credit cards and home loans, as you can see, going up quite quickly, although a little bit of a pullback in recent years. And then you've also got the Australian GDP per capita growth over that time. So we have some pretty bad economic problems at the moment. I think that we should be focusing on those and what we can do to improve our productivity and growth rather than focusing on leadership challenges. Anyway, so this has been a pretty interesting, a very quick video. Hopefully you've learned something or you've been interested in something. Leave a comment below if you want to ask a question, and maybe I'll get to that in the next episode. I might do these live in the future, so keep an eye out on them. And yes, finally, I really should remove my face so I can say that this video is authorized by Saritha Manicum of 49 Harrington Street and more.